Hi, everyone. So now you have the answer key that's been released by NLSIU Bangalore for this year's NLSAT LLB entrance exam. Now, question number 59, there's been a lot of chatter about it, and some of my students also think that the official answer key is wrong. So that's why I'm here today to explain why in this passage, option B is actually the correct answer, even though many students thought it should be A or D option. Now, most students chose the wrong option, but the correct answer is option B, and I'll tell you why. Before we look at the passage, here's the question number for each set. So in the master booklet, this will be question number 59. But say, for instance, you have set C, then it will be question number 52. Here's the passage for you. Now that you have this time, I will give you 2 minutes, say 2 minutes to read the passage. The first paragraph is not relevant to the given question, so we'll avoid that. Look at paragraph 2 onwards. Read the whole passage. You have 2 minutes. And now, because there's no pressure of the exam or a time restriction as such, because you have to complete the paper, focus on this particular passage for 2 minutes, read it thoroughly, and then we look at the question and the answer options. Your time starts now. So that's 2 minutes up. So here's the question for those who are not familiar with this particular question number 59. Now that you've looked at all the options, answer choices, let's go back to the passage and look at what information was given to us, right? Now, in this passage, the author tells us that AI is actually quite huge and messy, right? He talks about in the second paragraph, he talks about how AI is a huge, messy umbrella. It covers many kinds of technologies that work very differently. Okay. And then he gives us examples: chatbots, loan approval systems at the banks, self-driving cars, some algorithms that make recommendations. So, for example, in insurance, they would recommend how much of a risk appetite you have based on some data that's been input. So basically, AI covers many different kinds of technology, and they all don't fit neatly into these two types, saying generative or predictive, right? He's told us what generative AI is, he's told us what predictive AI is, but then he also says that besides that, AI is huge, and it will be wrong to try and fit everything neatly into just these two types of AI. Okay. And that forms the crux of the question. So let's look at the question now. Okay. So here they've said that the government wants to bring in a law. And so therefore all software developers must label whatever software they're creating. Any new AI application must be labeled. And this is a law that either you label it as generative or predictive. Okay. So based on the information given in the passage, what do you think the authors of this passage would side with? And they've given us four options. Now, look at option A. It says those authors would support this law since people would be able to better identify AI types. True. But the problem is not identification. It's that many AIs don't fit into either box of generative or predictive, right? So identification is meaningless if the categories itself are wrong. Maybe there is another type of AI, like algorithms, or maybe something else, right? There could be many different types which don't fall into generative or predictive. So what's the point of creating a category where this AI is misidentified? Okay, so A option is wrong. Let's look at option D, because a lot of students said option D sounds uh, correct. Now here again, they're saying the authors would support this law since people should be able to distinguish between AI types. Okay, how is A and D different? Here we're talking about identifying AI types. Here we're talking about distinguishing, how to distinguish one from the other. Now, yes, true, people should be able to distinguish, but does bringing a law really help? Because what law does, it'll force these uh, software developers, right, to make a choice between these two kinds. They'll say either classify it as generative or predictive, so we can distinguish what AI it is. What if it is neither, right? So therefore, D is wrong. B option is correct. I'll come to that, but before that, I want to eliminate option C. Option C says the authors would oppose the law since no one can distinguish between generative and predictive AI. That is not true, right? This goes against what is given in the passage because the authors clearly have told us what generative and predictive AI is, and they've defined it quite well in the passage. So it's wrong to say no one can distinguish between these two types of AI. Now let's look at why option B is correct. Option B, right? It says forcing every AI into only two labels would be incorrect and misleading. See, the authors would oppose this law since AI of other types may be wrongly identified. Some types of AI don't really belong to either category of generative or predictive. Now, with the law forces a wrong label, it will create more confusion, not less. Correct? The authors would oppose this law. Why? Because AI of other types might be wrongly identified, and that is the answer. Okay, B option is correct. Forcing two labels would misrepresent AI, and I think that's why the authors would oppose this law. In very simple terms, why option B is correct? AI is more than just two types. the law will oversimplify it by saying categorize it into just these two types. And these authors, when you read the passage, you will realize that they would oppose anything that misleads people about what AI really is. That's why he's talking about snake oil and things like that. Because AI is much bigger than just generative and predictive. And the image tells you that it's a big umbrella, and there are many different types of AI that exist. So key information from the passage that supports this answer, option B, is being highlighted here. You can pause the video if you like and look for this key information. Now, how do we identify key information? There are two types of information that's usually given in a reading comprehension passage. Explicit details are those that it's given directly in the passage, or they will state it as a fact. What are implicit details? It's indirect. Okay, you have to draw inferences. So usually when you do your reading strategy, reading comprehension classes, you will find how to find the key information, right? So if you would like to read our blog on the NLSAT exam analysis, we have done that. We have done section-wise review of part A, B, and the essays. So you can visit our website. The link, I will leave the link in the description box. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you for your time.